Hello, welcome to the cheese room. Sorry for our tardiness. Caller's not here. Can't even blame him tonight. Just stuff going on. It's life, really. But amazingly, the two Aussies were the first two in the room, even though it's about 3 a.m. or something. Evening, JP. Good morning. What time is it?
Good morning. Yeah, it's 6:05 in the morning over here. I was first in the room. I'll take credit for that. Somehow, amazingly, when our clocks moved backwards and this got even earlier this week, I managed to make it. But last week, when it was a 7 a.m. start, I was late. So I've learnt my lesson. Thank you, John.
Well, I can't take any credit for that at all. I've noticed I've
You
got a
didn't
weird
want me.
sort of my hair's doing weird stuff in the green screen. Anyway, also down under in Melbourne, he's been away for a while. Cam, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, yes, it's 6:05 or now 6:06, and bright-eyed and bushy. Don't know if I'm bright-eyed or bushy-tailed, but yeah, going well. Busy week, just getting off COVID Easter, and yeah, trucking along.
COVID? You had COVID at Easter?
Yeah, Good Friday. I was just about ready to get in the car, go camping to the country, New South Wales, and I was told to take a couple of tests, and bang, first test, double line. Second test straight away, double line. So I had a pleasant Easter.
Straight LBW. No
Yeah.
DRS required.
Have you not got that
No.
flavour of hot cross bun? The COVID hot cross bun? Yeah, it's great.
Don't go there. Don't go there. Still annoyed.
And lastly, joining us, I'm going to guess it's 6 minutes past 10 in Vienna. How are you, HG?
Yeah, I really wanted Cameron to say it was 6:06. That would have made it work really well for a football show of some kind. But I'm all right. It's really warm here too. So I think it's 26 is the high tomorrow. But yeah, no, it's been a good week back to school and everything. But yeah, it's been an odd week work wise, but still fun.
Yeah, well, my I don't know if you can say it, my little thermometer here in the garage is saying it's about 16 degrees, which is the warmest it's been for a very long time. Because I did a couple of shows when it was sub 10, and I got a little bit chilly during those. Anyway, so please do, if you don't already, like and subscribe. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, help us out. I think we've got over 8,500 now. Happy days for that. We're always trying to grow the channel. Also, make sure you follow the audio pod. Really good content goes up there, post-match reviews, and mostly it's the different crew that do it, so you get different viewpoints, which is fantastic. And also we've got a Patreon, which I'll come to later. But JP and Cameron and myself all came onto this channel via the Patreon. HG just because he does loads on Facebook, and he's got actually HG, congratulations on reaching 9,000 followers on your Facebook page.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. I had a load of people tell me that I should be making money off of it now. I am too old to even know where to begin with that. It just gives me a bit of street cred with the kids I teach, because they're like, really? Oh, 9,000? But yeah, there was one picture of Emma Raducanu in a Spurs shirt that got me about 1,500 of those, it feels like. But still, 9 grand is 9 grand. Can't complain.
They say no one.
I
was going to say, they say no one's bigger than the club, but apparently HG is bigger than the cheese.
Don't tell him that. It really will go to his head.
Yeah.
It's a bit like some of Steve's Conte Cam and Ange Cam videos, which have just blown up and got a lot of subscribers for this channel. So, happy days. Anyway, on to business. Firstly, I just want to say, I was supposed to run my first marathon last Sunday. I had to bail because of injury. I haven't run for about 7 weeks. I did manage to run last night, and I'm hoping to run tomorrow, but I am having a drink.
Nice.
But just the one. I'm being good. Anyway, Newcastle United, we play them in 15 hours, 21 minutes time. It's not a long time. So, boys, what time is that going to be down under for you?
Mate, 9:30 p.m. It's the best kickoff you could ask for in this country. It's amazing. Every week, please, Premier League. Honestly, like if it was any earlier, it'd be dinner time. So this is perfectly placed for us. It's a good one.
It's going to be great. I've got my Aussie Rules team playing at 7:30, then go straight into 9:30. It's back-to-back sports Saturday night for me. Absolutely brilliant.
And will you be sober by 11:30 by the end of the game, Cam?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I think.
So what channel is it on out in Australia?
Optus Sport.
The Optus Sport subscription.
Optus Sport subscription. So go get it. We can get every Premier League match on Optus Sport, which is ironic given you can't.
Yeah, the 3
I
p.m.
mean,
game.
it depends if you're able to get Optus Sport, which I might have done on occasion, but we'll leave that there anyway. HG, what channel is it on in Austria? In Austria,
Yeah, Sky Austria.
Sky
So
Austria.
yeah,
Well, there you go. We've got
we don't get every game for our 12 euros a month or whatever it is, but I get usually 2 of the 3 p.m. games plus all the ones that are live on TV.
So Crystal Palace.
Yeah, Crystal Palace quite often because of Glasner. Yeah, they're off and on. I mean, even Klopp, because anyone who speaks German that is involved in the Premier League, we see a lot. And it's weird that I get to see Raphael Honigstein in German. Like, that's always feels a bit odd when I'm like, he's got this thick Bavarian accent. He still spouts nonsense in German, but still, it's yeah. But no, it's I'll be watching 1:30, whatever it is, tomorrow lunchtime, nighttime, and
Well, we seem to get. You go.
I'll kick the kids out. They can go off and have fun in the sun, and I'll stay at home and watch the game.
Well, we still seem to get Martin Tyler for some reason. He does all the Spurs games. Does he still exist over there as well?
Yeah.
Well, he got binned off by Sky, so he now works for the Premier League.
Exactly. So I get the world feed, which I guess is what you guys get. So I do get English commentary, but it's often Matt Holland, Andy Townsend. I mean, those two people sound the same, but yeah, I get the world feed. But last year I only got German, which was actually better. I don't know why I listen to it in English, because you get because German commentary. This is going off topic now, but German commentary, you only have one commentator, right?
Really?
So there's no banter. There's no I'm an ex-player. This is what I think. It's just a guy basically, talking about the game, and actually I quite like it. And they have this phrase in German, Fehlentscheidung, which basically just means a mistake, a bad decision. And so when something goes wrong, they'll be like, "Oh, that was a bad decision," and then they never talk about it again, even though it affected the game completely. The refs made a mistake. Let's move on. But yeah, so I sometimes switch. There's one German commentator who I really don't like, I can't stand. But yeah, Matt Holland's all right.
I mean, Kevin's got a very good point. It could be Alan Smith, so you're getting away. It could be Merson as well.
No, I don't get any of those. I don't get Carragher.
Yeah.
I don't get Neville. I get the Monday Night Football pre-show. They do show that in English for me.
Oh.
But yeah, otherwise it's people that you remember from like the who did the radio shows in the late 90s and suddenly do world feed stuff too.
F and Coco is quite often on those feeds as well, I believe.
Yeah,
not that I've ever seen them, obviously. It will be on TNT in this country, which means we'll have we won't have Martin Tyler or his replacements, and Darren Fletcher. That's who we'll have, and maybe Jermaine Genius, because he's obviously played for both teams. I doubt Hoddle will travel that far. So anyway, there we go. 12:30 kickoffs. JP. Generally, we're not great at them. We don't tend to start very fast. However, could this be an advantage because we're away and it might keep the Geordies a bit quieter, or will they have been in the pub since 9 a.m. anyway?
I won't comment on the drinking patterns of other people's, but I don't think we've had a 12:30 kickoff since Ange has been in charge. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Wow, I wouldn't.
I feel like I would remember the 12:30 kickoff, and
because we're awake and watching
times. Yeah, but I do remember a few with Conte and it being absolutely miserable, and then I've got to go to bed miserable and wake up miserable for the rest of the day. So, anyway, I've gone off topic. Look, there's no deny. Like, we have historically started slow on those early kickoffs. Why the reason for that is, I don't know. I think the only thing we can say is recently we've kicked off well the last 2 or 3 games. Our first kind of 15 to 20 minutes have probably been some of our brightest. The 15 to 20 minutes that follow that, some of our worst. But I'm not overly concerned. I'm hoping that, we're not good. As long as we don't have a repeat of the last time we were up there and they blow us out of the game in the first 15 minutes, I don't think it'll matter. I think we've been blowing teams away in the second half, and I think that's where it's going to happen again if we're going to get the win tomorrow. Today for me, tomorrow for you.
Yeah, no, I think Norman's probably right there. I think Everton was also an early kickoff, so we've had 2 away games.
Yeah.
Obviously, Luton, we started very quickly. should have scored about 8 goals. Eventually got the 1 goal. Then Basuma got sent off, and we were hanging on a little bit. Everton started off well, and then sat back, let them back
Disintegrated
in
into
it.
madness. Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously we had that final few minutes where it all went wrong. So, Cam, what's the key really for us starting quickly tomorrow?
Being awake, essentially. No, James has said over the last few games we've started a lot better. We're typically a slower team. We're obviously playing at St James's Park. It's been alert. I don't know if those last 2 games Ange has purposely told them to be ready on the dot. Maybe it's a mental thing that Ange has really rocketed them straight on the back of 0 minutes, because obviously we've been habitually conceding before those 2 or 3 games. We've conceded early, but I think it's just really Ange purposely probably driving the team and not letting them do their thing probably from the start of the game, however that may be. And there's a push for that first 10 to 15 minutes. I don't know. I think they've obviously coached that into them over the past probably month to try and avoid conceding. So, yeah.
I remember the first 10 games, which we keep looking back on with like these rosy eyes. We were really quick out of the blocks in those games as well. So I don't think it's anything like unique that we're trying to push now. It's just hey, we've been delivering on it a little bit better recently. I don't know if there's any like the teams we're playing and making that easier. I don't think so. I just think that we're doing it, and having players back helps. Having players back fitter helps. But you know,
I think Ange knows that they can't redline for the entire half. So in other words, he's probably choosing his times for the team. However that works, where they actually are redlining from 0 minutes, or they redline from about 30 minutes to 45. But I think Ange knows he can't redline them for the entire half. So he basically just needs what?
I don't think he does know that. I think he'd look at it and go, if you can play 45 minutes of football, play 45 minutes of football, and then I'll take you off.
Yeah, but there's been instances that you've noticed we've scored when we've probably been playing that higher tempo and scored 2 or 3 goals in the go. But obviously you can't keep that in the entire half. Maybe he does. I don't know. It's a team mentality thing.
Yeah. Okay. Mark is right. Please do hit that like button. Stops us getting moaned at. Happy days. Gets more people watching the channel, and more people get to listen to HG and follow him on Facebook, because he needs to get to 10,000 by the summer.
Well, no,
I don't
hang
know
on
why.
a second. Hang on a second.
Come on.
No, there is no target here. There is no
I'm
target.
setting one right now for you.
And, all right.
Yeah,
10
no.
grand by the time I come back from California. Yeah, why
Similar
not?
to Ange, there's no ceilings on what you can achieve, HG. We're here to win it all. If we're not here to win it all, what are we doing?
Actually, can we get to a 10,000 during the first half? Can we start really quickly and just get there by
Yeah.
by 1:15 tomorrow? HG, this is the starting lineup for their last game. I'm just going to read out something that Paul Muir has put in our Patreon chat. Tomorrow, Newcastle are without Nick Pope. We obviously know that one. Trippier, Livramento, Sven Botman, Lascelles, Matt Target, Tonali for obvious reasons, Joe Linton, so he can't score against us, which is a bonus. Joe Willock, Lewis Miley, Almiron, and Callum Wilson. So they're just like when we played them in December. They're quite injury hit. Do you see a pretty similar? Obviously, Willock got taken off on this game. Do you see a pretty similar team happening?
I mean, yeah, based on most of the names you read, aren't on that graphic right now. Willock is, but the rest of them aren't. You'd imagine it'd be the same. I mean, Emil Kraft almost never plays, so for them to be using their third choice right back, second choice left back. The Dan Burn doesn't usually play in the middle. They have to change the way they play a little bit, I think. But it's still a relatively set 4-3-3, and there are some good players there. But like Spurs, considering we don't really have many injuries, I mean, obviously the backup goalkeeper, Richarlison, and the ones that have been out for half a decade, it seems like. But strictly speaking, there's no excuse for us. It is going to be about how we kind of adapt to whatever the conditions are, how we adapt to the game, and whether we can kind of outplay them in midfield. Because I do think, as always, the midfield area is going to be the biggest area that we need to win.
I think I am correct, HG, from memory from last season, that after the 32nd game is the cutoff for the 10 yellow cards.
Yeah, that's right.
Bruno is on 9, so hopefully he'll have to pull back a bit tomorrow.
Well, no, I read.
Get...
The funny thing, like I read an article today that suggested that if he did get a yellow tomorrow and has to miss the next 2 games, it would be smarter for him to then get a second yellow just before the end of the game, because it would be a red card offence and then only a 1-game ban instead of 2.
Oh yeah.
And then because the cards are wiped, he would get away with it. In effect, he would halve.
You're right.
He would halve the ban. So yeah, I mean, it would be weird if that happened. I mean, it probably wouldn't affect us, but yeah, it's kind of a bit of a quirk with the system that he could halve his ban by getting sent off.
That is ridiculous,
Bruno.
isn't it?
Yeah, get yourself sent off, Bruno. It's the right thing.
Yeah, if you could do it in the 2nd minute and not the 90th.
Yeah.
JP, when I look at that team, what worries me particularly is the pace up front. Mickey van der Ven can't play in the whole back 4 by himself. How are we going to combat this?
We're not going to. I mean, we can probably talk about structural positioning and how we want our fullbacks to play and how our defensive midfielders need to provide us more cover. But the reality is we're going to be more focused on us and what we do going forward. And the game plan will be hold the ball, don't give the ball away in silly situations to leave us vulnerable on the counter. I'm really worried about Isak in particular, particularly if he tries to get in between Van der Ven and Doggy primarily. I think Porro has done really well recently in kind of getting that balance between how far forward he needs to be and how far back he needs to be in order to snuff out those counters, and he's done well on that. But coming up against Anthony Gordon is going to be an interesting challenge for him because that's going to be the outball. I think we've seen a few recently where they've targeted Udoggy's side, but Gordon on the left is going to be the outball for Newcastle this weekend. So it's going to be a real test for Pedro.
I did see a stat earlier that I think a Gooner had put on Twitter, and it was Sky or one of the live games put up. When they put these little graphics up about most take-ons or most shots, and this one was dribbled past because Trent Alexander-Arnold was 2nd, but Porro was top in the league apparently 36 times, which really surprised me, I have to say. Yeah. But there is a worry there. But Udogie, the left back position, does seem to be as brilliant as he's been, and he has been excellent. He's really been an upgrade for us. Jack's giving me these nice little slides. We've conceded a lot of goals down that left side, it feels, recently. I haven't added them up. But this was the Chris Wood one, obviously, the other day, where I watched Udogie. He reminded me a bit of Danny Rose back in the day, where he used to saunter back. He wasn't really busting a gut to get back, I felt. I don't know how anyone else felt on that one. And obviously, Van der Ven got dragged across, and then suddenly Woods, and the ball deflected off Romero to get to Wood, didn't it, I think? And then, which one is this? That's Townsend crossing at Luton, isn't it? Yeah. Very similar kick. Very confusing, yeah. And then Fulham, obviously, I think, scored the fluky off his knee second goal, wasn't it?
That was a fluke goal. But yeah, obviously there are gaps that teams will want to exploit. I don't see who is that going to close the ball down right now on that shot.
Udogie.
Is that not Udogie?
Yeah, I guess it is. So, like, in that case, he's not really out of position. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's playing left back, and the fullback is on the overlap. So, yes, the goal came down that side, but I don't think we could. We're not going to look to blame inverted fullbacks for doing that, or fullbacks playing higher up the pitch. But yeah, where is he there?
Well, I'd say he's on the right hand side, isn't he? He seems to be out of position.
But see, this is
definitely not in the tip of the box, is he?
If you go back to the one before, right? Because Dragusin is in both. You can see Dragusin there in the middle. You got Romero at the bottom, then Dragusin, and then I'm guessing it's Udogie because it looks like there's two numbers.
Bissouma's in the middle, just by the ref.
Okay, all right. So if you go to the next one, where is he?
I think he's at the top right, just next to Son.
Yeah,
and then Maddison's nearer the camera.
So what was there? Maybe there was another simple overlap that went past him. I don't know. I don't remember the goal well enough to see that. But if you look at that, the two guys on the far post have tap-ins if the ball gets that far. So it's not great from Spurs, and our defending hasn't been great for a while. Really, we've conceded good chances all campaign, frankly.
Yeah.
So there are things to work on, and I'm sure that we'll find some kind of solution. But yeah,
By the way, Jack's added the words "should have been a goal"
yeah,
for us, just so we.
Yeah.
And then
Weren't Chris
yeah,
Wood's chances all last on that side as well when he was at Forest last Saturday? When you had
his shot that
Yeah.
he smashed against the post was from about 2
Yeah.
yards.
I think there's a distinction between goals being scored down that side and counter attacks being successful down that side as well. We certainly let a lot of counter attacks happen down that side, but that might be more of a ploy, and we're allowing Destiny to get further forward because you've got Mickey, who's so good at covering that. And when you want your fullbacks getting high up the pitch, it makes sense for the left-hand side to be higher up. So there's certainly areas of our game, and there's areas of everyone's game where this is the area where teams can attack us. But I think I said it last time I was on, like the goals we've conceded from counter-attacks down that side, but counter-attacks in general, is actually quite low. It's more mistakes we've made around the box that have been leading to goals, not counter-attacks and people getting behind Destiny, though there have been a few recently.
I mean, and let's be fair, Ange has always said, like, I want you to play the way I want you to play. And so if there are mistakes, then the team will cover for that. And so we've seen that, obviously Van der Ven's come across numerous times and been able to do it. And sometimes he hasn't. But like, it can't just be him. Right? I can't believe that as a team, we've basically decided we have two defenders and everyone else is designed to be forward, and then hopefully the other two can do what they need to do. So I am looking at the Luton goal, especially. Like, you're looking at Bissouma a little bit and thinking, like, okay, like, you are not the most mobile of midfielders. Even before this part, like, he gets done very easily by Townsend for Townsend to get that space. There's no real attempt to block it, it seems. So that to me is an area of concern. Like, it's okay to play that way with your fullbacks, but you need to have maybe a stronger defensive midfielder who understands that they will be running side to side quite a bit to make those challenges, and maybe we need something else in that area. But yeah, like, I think we all know that Spurs under Ange have been winning games and the system is doing okay, but we are nowhere near as good as we want to be, as good as we could be. Like I look at Villa, whose record is pretty much the same as ours, and I look at their team and I don't know where the improvement is. Like, how could they get better? Like, I'm sure they could, but I don't look at it and notice the weaknesses that I might see with the Spurs starting 11 or with the Spurs way of playing. So it's an interesting one for sure.
I'm just wondering, because generally we've always said Sarr does the old Sissoko with Aurier, seems to always cover Porro. Basuma seems more central to me than Sarr slightly to the right. Maddison obviously is the one on the left, but Maddison isn't there to cover, and maybe that's why we are slightly lopsided in midfield, which is why Dougie is more isolated to a certain degree, or the space is there. Maybe that's why teams are attacking there. We just need to find a way to get in the balance, because at the moment, obviously, and we'll come on to the midfield. There was a question about that earlier. It does feel, Maddison does work hard, but he's not quite there, as we know, with the ball or without the ball. So maybe that's we're leaving ourselves open, JP.
Yeah, a little bit. I think there's something in that. I think we sort of view it as a bit of a like Basuma as the sitter, Sarr and Maddison. Maddison being a little bit more advanced and Sarr and 8 more box to box. But I think particularly recently it's been a little bit more Sarr and Basuma kind of covering the left and right, and Basuma not getting as wide as Sarr does. So yeah, there's probably something in that.
Okay. Cameron, so you can answer Kevin's question. Obviously, we made double change at halftime the other day. As I said on this show, was it last week, week before? Højbjerg as a sub has been brilliant, really good for us.
Yeah.
As a starter, he hasn't. However, a stat that I read, which HG also threw out, Højbjerg has played more Premier League games than any other Spurs outfield player this season. Although he's played 30, although he's only started 6. I was at Brighton when he started there, and he wasn't very good. But then nor was the whole team. Would you? Who would you start tomorrow, Cameron, or tonight for you in that midfield?
Bentancur, Bissouma, Madison. I feel Madison's being targeted at the moment by teams. I think Madison's been purposely targeted by the opposition, and that's why I think you're seeing him slightly jaded and he's been essentially tracked all over the pitch because he's constantly in the niggling. He's constantly talking in his opponent, talking to the refs. I would start that, but I'm willing to be changed on that because I'm granted that probably due to study commitments. I haven't watched full games over the last few weeks. I would start that, but I would probably don't know where Sar's at if he's injured or not. But I'll go with that initially.
I enjoyed the conversation with yourself there.
Yeah.
Just working it through. Having internal
JP.
debate on screen.
Yeah.
Who's your midfield three, Jay?
Yeah, I'm not too far off. I don't think we should be starting Højbjerg. I will go Bissouma, Bentancur, Lo Celso.
Oh, gone for it. HG?
I mean, that's a very it's a ball playing midfield, right? And those three players are all comfortable on the ball. There's no real tackler. There's no real more defensive option. I mean, Bissouma is defensive, but also not really. So, and I think some of Spurs' best performances have been that way, where we've had three ball playing midfielders, and we've said we're going to get the ball and we're going to play around you, and we're going to create chances. I think like last week when we played Forest, I didn't want Sarr to start because I don't think we need him against Forest, right? I think Forest at home, you would hope to be able to play three better midfielders, or ones that are more creative, or ones that are capable of moving with the ball. And Sarr, as much as I love him, the value for him seems to be that he covers Porro. And if he doesn't need to do that, then I feel like it's like watching Skip sometimes, where he's on the pitch, but he doesn't really know where he wants to be or what he needs to do. So I can understand that for a Forest thing, but when you've got Newcastle away and they're a decent side at home, this might be a time that Sarr should start. You know, I think in the bigger games, Sarr would start. So then it's just a question of whether you want to do Bissouma or Bentancur. Go on.
Because I debated that as well, whether the Sarr should start, and it is a big game. I just felt we needed to hold the ball and play the ball better because I don't think we'll win in a physical battle with their midfield. But in a world where you think you still need Sarr, I would actually play Sarr at the 6 and then have Bissouma and Lo Celso still.
All right. I mean, it's an interesting thing because, like, I think Sarr, probably his best position right now would be as a 6. So then he would run either side and cover those things. And like, obviously, with a box-to-box midfielder, you like, we all see Patrick Vieira in him, and we all think he's going to be great defensively and can be great going forward. But right now, he isn't that. And right now, he might need to be that side-to-side guy that says, right, the fullbacks can go. My job is to get it from the centre backs and then just progress the ball forward, or allow them to. And he also almost becomes a third centre back with Van der Ven, and that could work too. So I don't mind that idea, but I think like Sarr, to me, because Newcastle away is a tough fixture, Sarr has to start. I saw weirdly that Bentancur's stats at kind of holding the ball under pressure this season have been very bad, a lot worse than Bissouma's, which I guess that might be true this season, but in my head, they're both pretty good at doing it. So I could see maybe, weirdly, a similar 3 to what we saw last week, and it would be Sarr, Bissouma, and Madison to start, and then we'll see what happens at halftime or at 60 minutes when the other great midfielders can come on. I still believe that Bentancur is the best midfielder we've got, and in my head, Bentancur has to be one of those 3 in pretty much every game, but we haven't seen it. And I can, if you think that Sarr is not going to be sitting as the 6 and he's going to be on one of the sides, then who is the best 6? Is it Bentancur or Bissouma? And Ange has, consistently chosen Bissouma to play that role over everyone.
Yeah.
So I suspect it would be that way. Although, I'm not sure I'd agree with it.
Yeah, I'm with Marky. I think Sarr is very important for covering Porro, as we mentioned earlier. And to answer this, no, Madders isn't injured. We're just discussing about the midfield 3 makeup.
Crazy talk.
Obviously,
Crazy talk.
crazy
I think it's crazy talk.
Madders hasn't been playing well. I think Cam is right. He has been targeted and kicked a lot. I think he's the most foul player or something, or definitely up there in the Premier League, despite having missed so many games.
Gio is fit. Like the stars have aligned, and he's fit, and he's probably our best ball playing midfielder. So why is it crazy to think that in a game where we're going to need to hold the ball in order to stop counterattacks that we don't play Gio? We probably won't. I know that this won't happen, but I think the best combination to win this game the way we want to play has Gio in it.
See, I'd be tempted to play. You sort of need Madders to play himself back into some form, but that you'd think there'd be a bit more room tomorrow. I don't see Newcastle playing a low block. I might be wrong. Eddie Howe does like to adapt his tactics, so you think that might suit Madders. Although Longstaff will probably go and kick him within the first 5 minutes, I imagine.
Yeah.
Bruno can't because he's going to be on a booking potentially.
I'd also love to see Madders come on at like 60 minutes and have half an hour of fresh legs where, he's probably not going to be as in it to start going at teams. And that's probably a good way for him to build up his confidence.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the Villa game early in the season when Bentancur obviously was running the game until Matty Cash took him out. But Lo Celso was really, really good that day.
Yeah.
And so there's arguments both players, but I just get the feeling that Ange doesn't really fancy Lo Celso. Didn't he bring him on the 88th minute the other game? And you think he's going to give him 15 minutes or so?
Weirdly enough, because of all the injuries we had, let's say up until game 20, 25, whatever it was, you could look at the teams that Ange has chosen, and I think you could quite easily see some kind of hierarchy. Like, these are the ones that he wants to use. And Lo Celso, it was only ever like if everyone else is injured, then you might get minutes. So I think Lo Celso actually wants to play for Ange and enjoys this system and would be good at it. But I don't think Ange sees him as a long-term thing at Spurs, and so because of that, isn't investing in him either. Like it's a strange one, because I do think Lo Celso is a good player. Someone said in the comments that he's made of glass. I think that's probably true as well. But like, if Maddison's playing well, we're not having this conversation. But because he isn't playing that well, and we haven't really figured out what we can do to help that, then we're looking for other options. We're looking to see that maybe Kulusevski would do it, maybe someone else would do it. But Maddison isn't the obvious pick for many Spurs fans that he was at the start of the season. I do think that's true.
Yeah. So Alpash is sort of bringing on the next stage. Need a stronger middle. No Bissell, Maddison start. Sonny, Werner, Johnson with Decky in the number 9 role. So he's and even Lo Celso 10. What?
Yeah, that's a lot.
So he's saying play Decky as the striker. Okay.
I mean, that's a lot of attackers. If you're going to start Sonny, Werner, Johnson, and Decky as the 9, and then Lo Celso is. I mean, there's too many there, maybe. But
yeah. But onto the front 3 then. So we know Richie is out again for another week. Well, 2 weeks, because we don't play for 2 weeks after this. Sonny's going to be the striker, clearly. Who are going to be the 2 wide men? We know it's out of 3 players. It's out of Werner, Johnson, and Decky. What do you think? Cameron, let's start with you.
And obviously, John. I think it will be Werner, son Johnson.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, I agree. Werner and Johnson have been our best wingers so far this year. They're doing what Ange wants better than anyone has in the last probably 3 games. So we wouldn't change it.
Okay. H2?
Yeah, if we're guessing on what we think Ange is going to do, then I think it's that 3. I don't want that 3, but I think it will be that 3.
What have you got against Timo?
What have you got against?
Do you want me to list him again? I mean, we're not going to put up that graphic that Tottenham away did, are we? Please, no. Do you really want me to go into? I just think Timo is like he works well in the system that we have. I will say that. But do I want him long term? No.
Okay, so that's not the question though. Against Newcastle, would you rather have Timo, who's been in form, playing okay, or Decky, who's not in form?
Well, that's not the choice for me. The choice is, do I want Son up front, kind of out the game? And the answer to that is no. And if you don't play Son as the 9, where do you play him? Well, you play him down the left where Werner is.
But
So
with
for
no
me, it's more-
Richarlison, who do you play as the 9?
weirdly enough, I would play Kulu.
Right, okay.
Because I think although Newcastle don't defend, like, in a low block, it would be even more Kulu, if I'm honest, because Kulu likes that kind of little flicks and tricks. He wants to play those, and as a 9, if you've got your back to goal most of the time, that could work. Maybe in this game where Newcastle, maybe it's not such a great idea, but I think we need a bigger presence up front. And if Richarlison is injured, what choice do you have? Like, you either go with Sonny and you hope he can win that battle, or you go with someone else and you hope he can win that battle. But I just think with Son being our best striker, our best finisher, we need to get him on the ball more often. And I don't trust Werner's crossing. So that's a big thing for me. So as much as Werner's done well, one out of every 10 crosses finds a target. And thankfully last week it was the Forest defender who put it in. But outside of that, I don't think there's much there. And I do think that I think Werner kind of hinders Udogie a bit too. But that's a different topic. But I don't want him long term. But if he starts, I'm not complaining, because I think we play better with actual wingers. I just think that perhaps, given the choices we have, he wouldn't play this one.
So I just it reminds me of the cookery program. Can't cook, won't kick.
Yeah.
Dane Scarlett, interesting. He came on as the right winger last week. He's definitely bulked up, scored goals for England 20s, but I don't think any of us are convinced by young Dane. Unfortunately, not yet. Anyway, maybe he'll come good like Harry Kane did, even just a small smidgen.
Wait 3 years for him to turn 22. That probably feels about right. Probably feels.
I always love a bit. I always love a bit of positive feedback, lads. I do love a waffle, and we're sort of supposed to talk.
He's talking about me. I know he's talking about me. That's fine. I don't mind.
I mean, you know you waffle, but that's the point of the show, isn't it? We could just sit here in silence. That would not be very exciting. So, thank you for your feedback, Zeddy. Let's have a look at some stats. So, Newcastle 8th, we're 4th. We've won 4 more games. We've drawn 1 more. They've lost 5 more, obviously. Average goals scored per match, 2.1 for both teams. They've conceded slightly more. Clean sheets, they've got more, though, which means they get battered more than we do. So are we expecting, given we can't keep a clean sheet, a high-scoring game? How many goals do we reckon then? What do you reckon? 3, 4, 5?
I think there will be 3 goals in the game. Newcastle 1, Spurs 2.
Oh, he's gone early. He's gone early.
Yeah.
HG, what do you reckon?
4 goals. 2-2. Desmond.
Yeah, Desmond,
Don't do that. Don't do that.
What do you mean don't do that?
I need 6
I'm sorry.
in the morning.
4-0 Newcastle. Does that make you feel better?
I need 100% positivity at this time in the morning. I can't deal with anything else.
Is Cantab wanting 54 goals? I mean, that's quite old. Is he going?
Jesus.
Is he going 5-4 to Spurs? 4-5. That would be quite a heart attack moment. Cameron.
Total of 5 goals, 3-2 Spurs.
I'm going to go 4-3 Spurs. I'm just going gung ho.
There won't be a clean sheet this game.
I mean, when you said 3, 4, or 5, I thought you were going to ask about sausages for a second, but no, you went for
that was the WhatsApp chat. Let's not go into that again. CDS Coys is with you going for the Desmond. Someone else said
honestly, mate, that is a bad call. Don't ever agree with me when it comes to predictions. I really don't get them right, but
yeah. King Hodley's agreed. Chris Sutton's saying 3-2, so I'm not sure that we are going to win 3-2. He's agreeing with him. Anyone else got any predictions? Kevin Stanbridge is being a pain by going 0-0.
So Spurs.
All right, Adrian, stop getting ahead of the run sheet. You know, interesting stat. We have the same amount of points last season, crew without Hurricane. There you go. Let me take this off now because you see that. There you go. Even though Conte wasn't there for the full 38, obviously, but
wow.
But I'm going to blame him for the entire season. Always.
I think that's valid. I think that's valid though, because it was the tone was set, and it was very hard to turn it around then.
And he swanned off. You know, like we didn't sack him. I mean, okay, maybe officially it was mutual, but let's face it, he went home and was not coming back. So yeah, I will always blame him for what happened last season.
Oh, he got himself sacked. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Even after that press conference, all the chat was that Spurs were going to try and recover the situation so he could see out the season, and then he was clearly just like, "No, pay me, I'm done."
Yeah, pretty much.
But it is great that great. It's incredible that we've scored the same. What is it? The amount of goals? No, the same points, right?
Mm-hmm.
With, same points as last season. Harry Kane's 30 goals have been made up for in various ways. We are a better team and we have a better squad and we're higher up the table. So that says a lot for whatever Ange is doing. Even though some of us can't really see the progress in the games anymore, it's getting us, lots of possession and we're winning more games than, what was it, 18 out of 31 now? That's pretty good going at any stage of the season. So yeah, I'm obviously happy.
Yeah. So a lot of goals between these two teams in recent times. So everything is pointing towards that 0-0 draw.
That's true.
Yeah, crazy scores.
But yeah, HG and I were out that 5-1.
Yeah, we were.
It's the one time we've met actually in person.
Yep.
And he just looked down at me from his 8-foot tallness that he is.
Yeah,
Cameron's laughing, but I gather you are just as tall. So from maybe this will be a celebrity wrestling between Cameron and HG at some point.
Could happen. Well, I'll be in California later in the year, so
yeah. But this idea of like celebrities, I don't know where you're looking. I mean, like I like Cam, and I have a high opinion of myself, obviously, but celebrities, no. I maybe not Cam.
But you've got 9,000 Facebook followers.
Yeah,
yes,
it apparently means,
HG.
but it means a lot to a bunch of teenagers, right?
I was gonna say that there's 9,000 other people who have a high opinion of yourself, HG. So maybe it's not such a high opinion that you hold.
I'm just trying to get to your page to see what you're on. Oh, I can't even find you right now. I'll come back to that.
What do you? I mean, don't look now. Don't look now because I put on a team earlier. But anyway.
Well, will someone wake up Ange? It's even earlier than start than usual. I'm sure we'll be asleep watching the same old passing. Yeah, as long as it's not AVB-esque. That whole slow round the back and yeah. Anyway, Gov is coming in with wins against Wolves ×2, Villa at home, a draw against Brighton away puts away title race. Yeah, that's a valid point. Stupid games where we should have done better.
Yep.
It's cost us. Right, what have I got? Here we go. So this was interesting. Last 5 games for both teams. Win, draw, win, lose, win. It's a bit spooky, isn't it? So draw maybe, if you're going to continue that. But yeah, obviously a nice win, terrible defeat, scrape to win, draw, and we were fairly. Apart from that 15-minute spell, we were fairly comfortable against Forest. Newcastle had a goal ruled out against Fulham, but I think they were the better team from what I gathered. So,
yep,
yeah, on that one, right. So the fight for Champions League spaces. Obviously, England's really successful week in Europe, with Liverpool deciding to play the reserve team and getting spanked at home by Atalanta. Villa did win. The Goons drew at home with Bayern, and I'd just like to shout out. I know there's been people that have been a bit against Harry Kane, but obviously I don't know if boys down under, if you're aware, Harry Kane's wife did have a car crash on Monday while he was travelling over.
Really?
Gather the 3 children in the car as well, and they're okay. But yeah, someone drove into her and another car over in Germany. So I hope everything's fine in the Kane household, and just best wishes from me, certainly, to the Kanes.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, this is the trouble, because we need Arsenal to beat them, but I just can't want Arsenal to beat them. It's really hard. And obviously West Ham away against it. Well, they never had a chance. They had 1 shot, didn't they? Against Leverkusen, HG, I think.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Look, I think like as much as the idea of Germany versus England means we want England to win, and Leverkusen will beat West Ham. But I think if if it's only those two that go through for the Germans, if it's only Leverkusen and Bayern,
Fine.
and we get City and Villa and one
Liverpool.
more, right? I mean, Liverpool probably not, but like
gonna be two.
if it's 2v2 as you go further, then it becomes more of a battle because like the two separate competitions. Like Villa, weirdly enough, being in they're the only team in the Conference League. Like the German teams get out of that, so that they could get points there. But I said this when it happened, that the fact that Newcastle and Man United went out before Christmas has killed us. I think even if they'd gone through and then gone out in the next stage, we would be ahead of the Germans right now. So, yeah.
I don't know that 2v2 really helps us either, though, because our points are divided by 8 and theirs are divided by 7. And so we really need to go an extra round.
Further. You need more wins. I mean, the thing is, West Ham could beat Leverkusen 1-0 in the return, so we get the 2 points, but they get the bonus points for progressing.
Going through.
It will still help offset it. So, you know, as we go through. I did hear that obviously Klopp did make a lot of changes and Mohamed Salah took it quite badly. I don't know if you're aware of this, boys. He was seen escorted from the pitch.
I haven't seen that, no.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Anyway, sorry. I saw that and had to nick it. His HG's great graphic, JP's graphic where Bournemouth might be spelled incorrectly. Here's my not so good graphic.
Where's Forest with 2 R's?
Every time. Here's my not so good graphic, which lays it out in sort of chronological order when we're going to play. And when obviously we've got that nice big gap, which is not a nice big gap because it means we've got a very congested fixture list afterwards. Somebody did just ask, CDS Coys just asked, how many points are we going to get? So, boys, I want you to have a little run through while I'm talking about gibberish. How many points do you think we're going to get? And then we'll go into Villa afterwards. You have a quick count, and I'm just going to go through some of the comments. Oh, yeah, so there's CDS's comments. Don't know what the run sheet is tonight. There isn't really a run sheet. It's just the slides. But what do you predict for our points haul? So we're going to come to that. I'll do a bit of adding up in a minute. Oh, yeah, Cameron's got the fingers out. He's got his abacus out and everything. Yeah. Mark hopes that Arsenal leads 5-1. Cantab, we're getting 4th, so don't worry about 5th. As HG said earlier in our chat, we all know if Spurs get 5th, we ain't getting Champions League. It's just the Spurs thing to do, isn't it?
Can I just say as well, like, as a proper Spurs fan, we are all willing to give up Champions League for Bayern to knock Arsenal out. That is correct. Are we all on the same page?
Well, also, our penultimate game is against Manchester City.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we might need to lose that game.
Again, we're all happy to lose to Manchester City.
Yeah,
I can never want Spurs to lose. That's the trouble.
No, I mean, this is it. Like,
that game.
I don't necessarily want Spurs to lose, but it's the same. What was it? The season when Man United did the treble, and we went to Old Trafford the last game of the season, knowing that if we lost, Arsenal couldn't win it. So, we took the lead, but we lost 2-1, and everyone went home happy. Like the fact that Ange has said quite publicly a number of times that he doesn't really care if we finish 4th or 5th, or if we get Champions League or not. He only cares about the progress of the team, and there is a case that the progress of the team would be better served by not being in the Champions League. Maybe we'd have more money, but what are we trying to build? Like, are we trying to build more of a financial behemoth to go and buy someone? Or is Ange going to say, well, I know the players I want anyway, and the extra money isn't necessary? So it's a weird one. I think it's easier to manage a Europa League, Premier League workload when you have a squad that's building than it is if it's a Champions League one, because suddenly the games where you rotate equal Premier League ones, and I quite like the idea of having 8 Europa League games where we can rotate, and you can finish in the top, I don't know, what was it, like the top 24 of the teams there to have a chance of progressing. So I understand the value and the prestige of the Champions League, but I also care about Spurs building, and I don't want to see what happened with Newcastle and what happened with Man United this year, where they they got there, and everything else fell apart because of it.
Okay. CDS is going for 12 points. And I just saw Kevin's going for 9. Is that with you 0-0 tomorrow, Kevin? Just checking. Adrian's got us 4 wins, gets us 72. Anyone else put that? Russell's going big. 21 points to play for. Sorry,
Jeepers.
right. We'll get 10. We'll get 10. Goal difference will be critical. It's quite tight at the moment. Ali Minson is saying we'll finish by Villa anyway. Just scrolling through. Oh, here we go. King Hardle has gone for 11 points to go to 71. Adrian, I believe we'll get 19 from the last 7. Wow, Adrian, you've been on the gin. As we'll probably draw away to Sheffield United.
That's a good point, Adrian. Get a point on the final day. It's a great end to the season.
Cantab 72. Gav is going big with 18. Okay. HG, what are we getting there, mate? Out of 7 games.
Knowing Spurs, we beat Liverpool and lose to Burnley. We beat Man City and lose to Arsenal. That's what Spurs do. I hate this. I really do, because you never know really which team, which Spurs are going to show up. Like the Arsenal one, I'd like to think that we're going to be really good and we're going to take the game to them. But I think that would probably make it easier for them to win. So I mean, if I have to pick, I would be pessimistic. I would say a point at Newcastle, a point at Arsenal, a point at Chelsea, a defeat at Liverpool. So, and then win Burnley, win at Sheffield United. So 10 for the draw at Man City. Is that negative? That we won't lose those big games apart from Liverpool away, but it'll be a bunch of draws and a few wins.
It's not too far off. If that's negative, my realistic is only what I think we'll get is only 3 points more. I think we'll get 13. I think a win away at Newcastle. I'll skip Arsenal for the minute. I think between Chelsea and Liverpool, we pick up a point across that. Burnley win, Sheffield United win, and then somewhere between Man City and Arsenal, we pick up 3 points. You decide where that happens. God, please let it be Arsenal.
But it won't be. I mean, this is it. Spurs, we know Spurs will probably do the job in the game that we don't want to, right? And I mean, by the time we play Man City in the last week of the season, Arsenal will have played 37 games by that point, right? And so we'll know exactly what the deal is. And I would never cheer for Spurs to lose, but that wouldn't be a bad game to lose if it got that far. It wouldn't be. But I fear, weirdly, that Spurs will somehow, take points from Liverpool and Man City and hopefully Arsenal as well. But Spurs have played all those teams and done pretty well in the first half of the season when, in theory, we weren't as good. We outplayed Arsenal at the Emirates and should have won that game. We were well in the Chelsea game until the silly red card that wasn't a red card. The Liverpool game was, I think, probably a 50-50 thing until their red card meant that we had most of the ball. So we can hang with these teams. It's not as if we have to be defensive. And I guess that we have an advantage of it not taking points off them is everything, right? We don't have to really win those games. It would be nice, but it does feel that it's more important that Arsenal don't win it all. And I think they probably. No, I'm not going to say that out loud.
Can we
Cameron,
just to get off that topic? Can we also just point out how utter lunacy it is that they couldn't find a single day in a 14-day period where they could have rescheduled the Chelsea game between Newcastle and Arsenal?
Oh, they could have. They could have. The thing is, John and I have spoken about this before, right? Chelsea had to play Arsenal, Man City, and Spurs, I think, right? Brighton, Chelsea, Brighton, and Spurs. And so I looked at it and thought, well, if they put Chelsea, Spurs before the Arsenal game, and then they put Arsenal, Chelsea in the final week of the season, and Spurs, Man City in the final week of the season, and I think Everton, Liverpool was available as well, you could have had all three teams in that final week of the season playing massive games against teams they don't like. I mean, okay, Arsenal and Chelsea it's a bit of a brotherly love thing because they hate Spurs. But still, like Arsenal, Chelsea, Everton, Liverpool, and Spurs, Man City in the final week of the season would have been 3 incredible games that Sky decided they weren't going to do because they wanted Arsenal, Chelsea the week before Arsenal, Spurs. I never understood that, but yeah, it's left us with what we have now, where as soon as they put Arsenal, Chelsea in that week, Spurs, Chelsea couldn't go there. It was impossible.
Yeah. Cameron, did you give us your number?
No, but I was going between 12 to 13 on there.
I think I'm going 10 or 11, so I'm being a
Yeah.
bit more pessimistic. Villa, if we quickly look at Villa, so you wouldn't expect them to lose to Arsenal. They've got a tricky away game to Lille, but
you wouldn't expect them to lose to Arsenal.
Yeah,
sorry, I
was
wouldn't
thinking
expect
that
them to beat.
myself.
Sorry. Wouldn't expect them to win against Arsenal. I'd expect them to lose. Sorry. I'd expect them to probably beat Bournemouth. Chelsea, they obviously lost to in the cup, didn't they? They got, and you never know which Chelsea you're going to get. But maybe a draw there because they did draw against Brentford. So 4 points there. Brighton away, you never know what you're going to get with Brighton. But I think Villa will probably beat them because Emery will work on their weaknesses. So that's 7. Villa Liverpool at home. Probably Liverpool.
With Villa, Bournemouth have nothing to play for. Chelsea have nothing to play for. Brighton have nothing to play for. And Palace will probably be safe and have nothing to play for. Right? I mean, that's huge.
So you're going 15.
For Villa, I just think that they have an easy run of games because their opponents don't really care. Like Newcastle still have a chance of Europe, so they'll go for it. Chelsea obviously hate us. Arsenal obviously hate us. Liverpool going for the title. And City are going for the title. So we've got 2. That I would say Burnley and Sheffield United should be down by that point. We've got 2 teams that will have nothing to play for. And that does kind of matter. Like, even though Villa drew with Brentford last week in a game that we all thought they were going to win. So you never know. But if you're going on past experience, Villa do have an easier set of fixtures. I suppose you could say Brighton maybe have a chance of Europe too. But, I mean, that's a stretch.
It does depend also if they progress in the Conference League and where they have to play those 2 semi-finals, doesn't it? Because that will be having to play the first team. It won't be one of these switching around. I'm just gonna sorry, where's Adrian's comment? Adrian's comment asking me to list the Arsenal fixtures before they play us. So obviously it's gone off there. Play Bayern on the 17th. So they play obviously Villa, then they play Bayern, then Wolves on the 20th, Chelsea on the 23rd, which is 5 days before the North London derby, unless Arsenal do get past Bayern. There is a possibility that their Champions League game could be on the Tuesday, in which case the North London derby will have to move to the Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't know if the next round is set or not, but that was my reading of it.
And Adrian's right. That's a tough run of fixtures. If they go through, like even if they don't, they've got to play Bayern, they've got to play Chelsea and Spurs, and was it Wolves? I don't know if it was Wolves away. Maybe I think it is.
Well, what is Wolves away? Yeah, and you never know what you're going to get with Wolves away. Do you? They do like the big teams coming to them.
And when Arsenal threw it away last year, it was because they had a run of draws. It wasn't because of defeats. They just had a run of draws, and that was enough for Man City to go past them. And they did lose twice to Man City, but the Southampton game at home, they didn't win. They should have. Liverpool away, they were 2-0 up, didn't win. Like that's what hurt them, and so they could be about to enter that now. Like Villa could get a point tomorrow for sure, and then you might see Spurs really just hammering the nail in at the end of in their game. But I hate predicting because you just don't know. Like you don't know what injuries you're going to have. You don't know about suspensions. Yeah. You don't know. It has to be one game at a time. As much as that's less fun to do on a pod, I can't think further ahead than Newcastle.
Fair enough. Okay. So it's going to be tight. Whatever happens, obviously we've got a 20+ goal difference. They've got a 17. So, which obviously a defeat for one or a big win for one could easily swing that. So it's really, really tight. The Chelsea game obviously is our game. No, well, Chelsea or City's a game in hand. One of them, City, I guess, because it'll be the last one, and that's not going to be easy, especially as they've now scored at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and won, even though
not in the Premier League.
Not in the Premier League. True. Yeah, true.
That matters. That matters.
But I mean, like looking down, I mean, it's weird. The race for 6th is probably almost more interesting. I mean, not to Spurs fans, but like you've got United, West Ham, Newcastle, even Chelsea would probably think they have a shot, weirdly, of getting sixth. And sixth would be what, Europa League, probably, depending on who wins the cup. But so like
Yeah.
there's quite a lot to go there. Like Newcastle, it's a big game for them against us tomorrow. Like they might be full of injuries, but it's not as if they're mid-table and coasting. Like they are clearly in the race for a Europa League finish, which would be a pretty good season considering the amount of injuries that they'd had and what they started with. So yeah, it's like tomorrow. I am nervous. Like Spurs, like we could go there and win 3-1. We could go there and lose 5-1. That's kind of why I think 2-2 is probably somewhere in the middle. But it's not going to be fun to watch. I'll be behind the sofa.
Okay. So we've done predictions for Newcastle, haven't we? So yes, shall we go on to weekend predictions as we sort of covered it a little bit with the table? So we've done Spurs, Newcastle, Brentford, Sheffield United. I'm going to go a home win. Whistle will score. JP.
Yeah, Brentford 2-0.
Cameron.
Same.
SG, your grandmother's team.
My grandmother's team, will lose. Sheffield United will get a victory because why not? Why not? Sheffield United, yeah, they'll win 2-1.
It's the Premier League. What I would say, so I saw some tweets this week saying, "Oh, Tony's available for 30 million," but then I saw a news report he's available for 50. I don't quite know. I can't see, Brentford selling for 30. But
the problem is you're listening to news reports.
Well, given the way he's been in interviews, and I have to say, he doesn't come across very well. He needs to be advised a bit better. Would you actually take him? Because as a player, I think he's a top class player, but I think he comes across as a bit of an idiot, to be honest. HG?
Look, I mean, Ange won't. I probably would. I understand why Ange wouldn't, and I get the logic behind it. But like a striker like Ivan Toney, like even if it's 50, 60 million, he will guarantee you goals, even if it's from penalties we might get or we don't get, but he will score those. So I just like if you can get 30 million for Richarlison and you buy Toney for 60, I think that would be worth it. But I know it won't happen. I don't expect him at Spurs, and to be fair, I don't think he would want Spurs. I think he knows where he's going. That's why he doesn't really care about how he comes across, because I think it's already done.
Where do you think he's going? Gunners? Chelsea?
I think Gunners would be the obvious choice. Like unless he wants the money that Man United could pay him, like unless he's really out to get as much money as possible. But Chelsea are the logical choice when it comes to playing time, and they would obviously give him lots of money. But I think Arsenal would too. So if I'm Ivan Toney, I'm thinking I want to go to Arsenal.
I mean, King Hodlett, from a purely football point of view, I agree, but the problem is it's just a footballing point of view, is it? Cam, Tony, yay or nay?
I think I would yay, but he won't come. He's not. I don't think Ange will take his attitude. So yeah, I think it'd be a nay from Ange, but a yay from me.
Okay, Jay.
Hard swerve.
Cool. Okay. Burnley, Brighton. Is Vincent Kompany going to get 3 points, or are Brighton going to turn? HG's nodding. Yep. Okay, Cameron.
Brighton 1-0.
Brighton a good 1 in 5. What was their last win?
I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
If Brighton haven't 1 in 5, they'll win this game 4-1.
So they lost 3-0 to the Gooners, drew away to Brentford, lost 2-1 to Liverpool, won against Roma, and the fourth league game before that was 1-0 at home to Forest. Their last away league win was in February, 5-0 at Sheffield United.
Yeah, Brighton 4-1.
Oh, okay.
That feels about right.
I'm going to go 3-1 to Brighton, because I think Burnley will just play the way that suits Brighton. Manchester City against Luton. City beat them 6-2 in the cup, didn't they? Ooh, I'm going to go 5-1. JP.
Foden double hat trick.
Will Foden play? I reckon arrest him from Madrid.
When's Madrid? Thursday?
Thursday morning
Wednesday.
for you, probably, yeah.
Yeah, Thursday morning for you, yeah.
If Foden plays, Foden double hat trick. If he doesn't play, City 4-0.
Cam?
City 3-0.
I'm glad you put that up because I agree with Adrian. 3-1. I think Luton will score, but City hopefully will have enough.
Yeah, and Mark agrees. He also thinks that Luton will score. Cantab is on 2-0. Okay, Nottingham Forest, the Nuno Derby. Forest 3 Wolves.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a tough one to call. Forest are generally okay at home, but Wolves, no idea what they're going to do. I'm good. There was parts of Forest impressed me last week. I thought I'm going to go 2-2. Desmond. HG?
I have this idea that Sheffield United will win and Burnley will win and Luton will lose, which means that Forest will also lose and they will all just start to bunch up a little bit more. So I'll go 2-0 Wolves.
Cameron.
2-1 Forest.
JP.
I'm moving in cycles of 5. Chris Wood has scored in 4 games straight, so Forest 1-0.
So he's going to miss a sitter. That's what you're saying. And a 1-1. I've gone for Desmond.
Yeah.
It could easily be. It's one of those games you could just go either way. Bournemouth against Manchester United is the late kickoff in the UK. I'm imagining the boys out down under will not be watching this game. I'm just going to have a look at Bournemouth's form because I can't actually remember. So they were on a decent until they lost to Luton in the last game. They'd actually won 4 and drawn 1 of the previous 5. So they were in a good.
Did he just win Manager of the Month, Iraola?
Oh, he did. Yes, he did. Oh, well, they're going to lose then, aren't they?
There we go. Exactly. Man United 3-0.
Bournemouth.
And Man United will play terribly, but win 3-0.
Yeah. Guaranteed.
Bournemouth 3-1.
Cameron?
Bournemouth 2-1.
Okay. I think I'm going to go United to win and hope they don't. Just that it definitely kills off any small chances they've got of catching us. Okay. Liverpool Palace. Now, this is interesting. I think Klopp basically gave up on he accepted that it's all about the Premier League on Thursday night. So I'd expect his strongest 11 against Crystal Palace. I'm going to go 3-1 to Liverpool. JP.
Yeah, I agree with that. 3-1 Liverpool.
Yep.
Liverpool, don't know how many players are back. I'll go 3-0.
HG?
2-1. Sorry, I was miles away. 2-1 Liverpool. I think Palace will score. They'll probably score first. And then Liverpool will turn it round. And everyone will go, yay, Liverpool.
I'm sure Salah will look much happier. West Ham, Fulham. Obviously, Fulham haven't won since they smashed us. So West Ham did play away in Europe on Thursday, though. This could be a 1-1 draw. This will be a horrible game, I reckon.
Yeah, this is the game that no one wants to watch. That's the reason why it's not on Sky. So, yeah, let's go for a 0-0 with this one.
Dos.
Dos for JP. Yeah.
Desmond.
So we've got a Spanish Desmond and a Desmond, okay. Arsenal, I'm going to go a 3-2 Arsenal. JP, you all right there?
Any points for Villa doesn't really help us, but any points for Arsenal doesn't either. So it'll be 1-1.
And the thing is, when you say that, that just means that whatever result helps us in some way, right?
Yeah.
Like if Villa go there and win, we're ecstatic because Arsenal have lost. And if Arsenal win, we're not happy, but it's helped us. And so for that reason, I hope it's a draw, that both of them get hurt a little bit.
Yeah,
so
1-1 feels about right.
Yeah.
1-1 would put both of us. I had if we count this as a draw, then I've got Villa getting 13 points and us getting 13 points, which will mean it'll come down to goal
Goal
difference.
difference. Yeah.
Which feels like the kind of Spursy thing to do. So yeah, let's go 1-1.
Cam, did you do yours?
No, Emery will
Okay.
frustrate Arsenal. It'll be 1-1 as well.
Okay.
It's true. Emery's going back. First time with
Yeah,
fans.
he's done it before.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Well,
supposed
no,
to,
he did. He's been there before, but not with Villa because he beat them in the Europa League.
Valencia? No.
Villarreal.
Villarreal?
Villarreal.
Yeah. Villarreal. Yeah.
Okay. And the Monday night game that no one will be watching the second half because they'll all be watching the Cheese Room if we've got a show that night, depending on
100%.
if it's Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Do you know it's the sort of game I can imagine Dominic Calvert-Lewin getting an 80th minute equaliser or something in this game? But
A ball being flung into his rear end and it just bouncing into the goal.
probably, yeah. Well, he seems to, it seems like he might be getting going again. Hopefully, because he had a lot of injuries. Bless him. I'm gonna. Oh, hold on. Mark's making a point. Douglas Luiz is suspended, so that's a big mess for Villa.
Okay,
Yeah.
then 1-1.
Okay. Chelsea. What do you reckon, Ashley?
No, I think Chelsea are going to actually win a couple of games and have a chance of Europe. So yeah, home win for this, probably 2-0.
So Sterling to score to stop
Well, yeah,
City.
a tap in, yeah, sure, he can score tap ins. I don't think Sterling's been playing and they've been getting results. So I don't know what that says, but yeah, Chelsea are not a horrific team. They're just not consistent. But I do think they have enough to win that game, and at home they're a decent side. So yeah, 2-0.
Okay, Cam.
I was looking at the table here just to see where Everton is. So they're 2 points above. I could see a 1-1.
Okay. Joe.
Poch still needs to be in a job by the time they play us. So 2-1 Chelsea.
King saying Chavsky could get ditched. It will certainly be interesting. Right. I'm going to go. I think Chelsea will probably win. I'm going to go 2-1 as well. I'm just going to bring up, as we're on Chelsea, we brought up Tony. Conor Gallagher will not bugger off. He's continuously linked with us. Ange spoke in the press conference today. He was asked specifically about Oliver Skipp, and Ange sort of batted it away, saying, "What will be." Basically, what can anyone see? It's not. Do you want him? Can you see this happening?
I think we're being too strongly linked to number 6s now. I think we've kind of moved past the idea of a number 8 being what we needed, and I think maybe like there's some excitement around what Bergvall might be, and him potentially playing in that position. I think that we're only going to bring in 1, maximum 2 midfielders, and I think 6 is the priority, and then a Maddison backup should be the other position we're looking at before we look at an 8.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay.
I mean, again, I don't think it will happen because I think like what's in it for Conor Gallagher really? Even if Chelsea said, "Hey, look, we need the money, please go," what's in it for him? He's not responsible for this, for Chelsea's finances. So he's got a year left on his deal. I would just play the deal out and then see what options I get. Like because there's a homegrown midfielder who's an England international. One of those massive teams are going to spend a lot of money and will pay him a huge amount of money to do that. To give that chance up to go and play for Tottenham, who, let's face it, would have never been one of his dream teams to play for. I just don't see it. I don't see Conor Gallagher saying, "Yes, Chelsea, I will help you out by ruining my career and going to a team I don't want to be at." Because that's how it would be for him. I'm assuming that a player like Gallagher will look at Spurs and think they don't win stuff. I don't want to go there. So, and that's because he's a Chelsea boy, but still, I don't see it happening for that reason. Regardless of what we want and what Chelsea need, Gallagher will just say, "No, sell someone else."
I entirely agree with you, HG. Entirely agree with you on like why would Gallagher want to come to Spurs if he's supposedly dyed in the wool Chelsea? But the thing that gets me is like Spurs are consistently linked with him, and there's a real interest in him every window.
Yeah.
You would think if he was like, "No, I don't want to go to Spurs," we would have just killed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, like maybe he's doing that. I mean, again, if you're a player, you're not going to say no because like Spurs may well end up being the best offer he has whenever that is. So he doesn't want to burn the bridge completely, but I still, yeah, you can't. I wouldn't trust it. Deep down, I wouldn't believe that he was massively interested in coming to Spurs, regardless. And if he played a straight bat and tried to defend it and be like, well, we'll see what happens in the summer, that just means he's looking for a better option. He's not. He doesn't want to play for Spurs, which is what Ange is all about. If he wanted it, then it would probably happen. But I don't see him wanting it. I see him hoping for a better option.
Okay. HG, you're our expert on homegrown and all that sort of thing. Adrian saying for Europe, 4 of our homegrown have to be academy trained. Obviously, we lost Harry Kane and Winksy. We have only Whiteman, Austin, Sessegnon, Tanganga, and Skip. Sarr isn't eligible apparently next year. I think we thought maybe he would be, but he's not eligible. That was discussed in the press conference today. Adrian's also said we got Parrott, who I think none of us really think he's going to make it at Tottenham at that level. So you don't have to be homegrown, do they? We just can't have a space. They could use a younger player at Bergvall. Is that right?
No, because Bergvall would count as foreign because they don't like in Europe. There's no under 21 rule, right? So in the Premier League, under 21s doesn't matter, but in Europa, you have to be at the club for a couple of years and be under 21 to then be on what they call the list B. So the European squad will be 25 players, of which 17 will be foreign, 4 will be homegrown but not from Spurs, and 4 will be homegrown from Spurs. If you don't have the numbers to fill it, then you don't have the numbers to fill it. But we will have a whole bunch of academy players who will be on that list B that would be eligible. So again, it kind of goes to the point like you don't want to see those guys playing in Champions League games, but in a Europa League game, well, maybe those are the minutes that we want these players to get. So, or we might say, I said it half as a joke today in our chat group, but we could go after Andros Townsend and just sign him up, and he would count as an academy product because he is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not being weird. Like, he's a Premier League player. He has been for over a decade, and would you rather there wouldn't be a terrible option. He could play either wing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like maybe he won't want it, but 6 months ago he didn't have a club before Luton kind of rescued him from the scrap heap. So if he wants to play regularly, then okay, then he'll probably stay at Luton. But if he wants to help Spurs out, which are his team, I think we could get away with paying him 20 grand a week to just train and be available for European games, or even he could be in the Premier League squad. That to me is not. It's not an ideal solution, but where we are, it is a pretty good solution.
It's a make-weight solution. Yeah.
I think there was maybe some hope that Devine would have done a little bit better in his second loan that he's had this half of the year, and that he might have been one of those options coming in. And that still might be the case. We might just get put in a situation, but I think where it's heading is that Skip will probably be the unfortunate one in that he might have to stick around just to help us make up numbers for Europe. And Sessegnon's contract, they'll probably take up that option for an extra year just to see, so we've got some bodies.
Yeah, it's weird. With Walker Peters, yes, it would work for him too. Like you don't actually have to play for Spurs. You could leave Spurs at like 19, having never played a game, but you would still count. So, there you go. I mean, about Gallagher, his stats are amazing, but so he runs around a lot and he makes lots of tackles and he wins lots of ball and he finds a teammate, but that's not really what we need. I don't really think we need a water carrier, a mobile, basically Jordan Henderson, but not as good. That's what Conor Gallagher is to me. Right?
It's interesting if Conor Gallagher was to come as well, and we spend big money on him. And for that point that you're saying, HG, he's kind of Sarr, but I would trust Sarr in the big games more. And then if it's not the big games,
what's the point?
Is he a better player than Bentancur? No. So he becomes third choice in that box to box role. So I don't see it.
There is no reason. Absolutely no reason for Gallagher to join Spurs, and I'm not saying that because I don't want him to. Like, if I was his agent, I'd be like, look, yeah, your priority is to stay at Chelsea, but they can't give you big money. Chelsea want him gone because they know it will help them out the crap. They want to try and sell him somewhere. But
Yeah.
again, if I'm Conor Gallagher, Chelsea's issues are not my problem. Even if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd still be like, look, guys, sorry, but not sorry. You could have offered me a long-term contract, but you didn't. That's why Mason Mount left. Like, Chelsea have basically come up with a system that means they have to sell their academy players to stay within whatever the rules are. But there's no guarantee that they'll want to. Like, Mason Mount was happy to go to Man United because they gave him silly money and a long contract, and that's what he wanted from Chelsea. But I don't think Conor Gallagher is like that. I think Conor Gallagher will probably say, "Well, I'll look to see when I'm on a freebie, who wants me? Would Liverpool take me? Would Man City take me as a homegrown player for the squad? I think they would, and they may well pay him the money that he wants from Chelsea. So it's just like, even though I don't rate him, it would be a terrible move. And like, unless his agent is called Charlie Gallagher, it's not happening.
Andrews, why not start sending players like Divine to clubs that have a reputation of developing youth? Just giving a player X amount of minutes is not developing a player. I think the point is the guy who was the manager there, who's recently been sacked, had worked with Phillips and Divine at England youth level, which is part of the reason he wanted them. I've got a friend who is a Plymouth fan, and he said the general view is that Divine's a bit lightweight at the moment, so maybe he needs to get on the Dane Scarlet in the gym weights situation
and
too.
he's still not even 20. Like, I think he's 20 in August, so he's not
Yeah.
old. But it's like we all dream that these academy players are going to be ready to take a squad role at like 2021, and unless they really play regularly in whatever league they're in and take those, like, you don't see it. Like, I don't think Liverpool fans ever really knew that Conor Bradley existed. They knew he had a good loan, but now he came in for Liverpool and he's taking his chance and he's playing well. And now they all think, right, we have a right back that's not called Alexander Arnold. We don't have to put Gomez out there. Like, Bradley has made that role his. And if Divine isn't doing that at wherever he's playing, then he's not going to get those opportunities. Like, a whole bunch of our academy players, including Divine, probably need to play, and they won't play at Spurs.
Yeah, I think the trouble is Poch just stopped all the loans, didn't he? We were loaning players, Townsend, Ryan Mason, Kane, Carroll, all these players had lots of loans, and it did, it did bring up to a level. Obviously, only Kane was the superstar of them all, but like you said, Townsend had a decent Premier League career, played for England. Mason played one game for England, and then Poch wanted them to train at the club, and a lot of players, Winks came through, but other players didn't get the chance, and then obviously Mourinho and Conte didn't really play anybody particularly apart from the odd game. So it's fine. Jamie Donnelly is probably the one, isn't he? Does he go on loan next season? Because realistically, he's probably not going to play many first team games. He only did because we had injuries. And we've got a lot of talented youngsters. We've got Lancashire, we've got Suntuk Bell and Santiago in that under 21 squad. So it really is guesses. Do they think they need another year in that level, or do we loan them? Because obviously Dane Scarlett struggled a bit on his loan at Ipswich, has been sent back. It is a really fine balance.
Can you put up the comment that Andres has said about the difference? Like, I mean, so I don't know if any of you know the guy who's at Feyenoord, Minte, right? He's a Newcastle player. I can't remember where they signed him from, somewhere in Denmark, I think. But they sent him straight to Feyenoord, and he's gone there, and he's now part of the team. I think he scored at the weekend when they beat Ajax. Like, he's had a great loan, and he's 19, maybe. I don't think he's much older than that. So it would be lovely if we could do that, but teams have to want our players. And clearly, Feyenoord were like, well, look, we can't buy him. Newcastle did that, but we can still use him. We still, like, probably they would have wanted to buy him. And I think that's the difference. Like, if we said to teams, hey, Bergvall is not going to be at Spurs, then there'll be a whole bunch of European teams like Feyenoord who would happily take him for a year or two. But Divine has never been that. And so we have high hopes for him. But I imagine a lot of European teams have no idea he exists because he's played 6 months at Port Vale and a few games for Plymouth, whereas Minter was playing regularly in Denmark in the top league. Like, it's about taking the chances that you're given. And Divine, sadly, this year hasn't really gone and done what we hoped he would.
I mean, but surely these guys have played for the England youth teams, and we've seen, particularly in Germany, the likes of Dortmund picking up these England youth players. What's the double Gittins
Yeah, by
guy?
yeah.
I mean, he wasn't playing for City, was he? But obviously, he was playing youth stuff. So they are aware of them, I think. But it's whether they think fit them in, whether we're happy to send them there, aren't they?
And maybe our ones aren't as good as we want. Like, if I'm Dortmund, I'm not coming over to England to take the third best academy product at Spurs, which is what he might be. Like, they're going to want the best of the best and the ones that want out. Like Jadon Sancho, had he waited 12 months, probably would have played for Man City, right? But he didn't want to wait. He wanted the time. He was a bit annoying, a bit difficult to get out, but Dortmund were happy to give him that role, and he's only ever really played good football there. So it's I don't know if our academy products are as good as we think they are, and it's then about just get them out somewhere, and if they have to adapt, they have to take those opportunities. They have to make themselves undroppable for those teams.
Yeah.
Like if I was in charge of a League One team, I would love to find Premier League players that would help the quality of my side. But if they don't have the other stuff, it doesn't matter, right? And that's why it worked so well for Conor Bradley, because he did. He went to Bolton and was their Player of the Year and played almost every game. But he played those games not because he was a Liverpool player, but because he proved himself good enough and able to do so. And Devine hasn't really done that. He hasn't taken League One by the scruff of the neck. He didn't really. And then at Plymouth, he's played, but again, not been the main guy. They weren't winning games, and when you're not winning games, you don't put lone players in the team.
Yeah, I'd say Devine and Phillips were both unused subs tonight, which is surprising because Phillips has been playing well. But again, they've got a new manager. They're fighting relegation, so you're going to go with more experienced players, aren't you? I think generally. Mikey Moore, very young player. I think it's going to be a couple of years before we really start seeing him come through. I guess next year maybe he'll step up to the under-21s and then see how he plays and if he moves on. But again, that's whether the likes of Donnelly move on to the first team squad or on loan. That will create the space for the likes of Moore to come through. There seems to be a lot of prospects, more prospects in the youth, in the academy than there have been in recent years because the club are working quite hard. But only time will tell. Is it not? It's not just about their physicalities and their capability, their skill. It's also about the mentality. Can they make the step up?
If I looked at our academy prospects right now, I think Donnelly will make it at Spurs, right? But to be fair, I thought the same about Parrott, and he went on loan and he didn't do it. Wherever it was needed to happen, he didn't do it. And so he's done better at Holland, but now he's 22 and Spurs are thinking, okay, well, it's probably time to say thanks for your efforts, but you're not going to do it. Like Donnelly, I think is 19. So next season might be a bit early, but still, you still want them to. If they're going out on loan, they have to go out and prove that they are good enough to play those games.
Yeah.
Teams aren't just going to play them for Spurs' benefit. That doesn't work that way. They have to go out there and say, we are good enough. Like when Anders Townsend went to, was it Yeovil back in the day?
Yeah.
Right? Now, like we can sit here now and say, well, Anders Townsend was a Premier League player for a decade. He should have played for Yeovil, but he didn't really. Or if he did, he was okay, but nothing special. It's like you have to, those players, they have to make it count.
It's interesting with Parrott because it feels like he's about the age now where Harry Kane got his opportunities in the Europa League and then started to do stuff. And he as well didn't pull up any trees on any of his loans. Like he look back at any of those, didn't score heaps of goals, didn't play heaps of minutes. He just had a manager who looked at him and thought, yeah, I could get something out of you. I'll play you in the Europa League. And then he made himself undroppable. So I think this pre-season is make or break for Parrott. And he's one that I would be, if we were playing Europa League football next year, I'd be happy for him to be in that 25-man squad just because it's going to need to be someone. It may as well be him.
And it can't be Valise because even though he's young enough, it wouldn't count.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at the strikers, like Valise is the one we always forget, but we loaned him out. I can't believe we did that, right? Because to me that said we don't think he's good enough. And whether even if he goes to Seville, when I gave him the number 10 shirt, and like if we thought he was good enough, he would be at Spurs. Like there was really no reason to send him to somewhere that again. there's no guarantee that Seville were going to play him. So it just feels like, if those two come back and there's a third striker role available, then logic says it goes to Parrott, if only for the fact he counts as homegrown and club grown. If
Yeah.
only for that reason.
I have a slightly different opinion on the Valise loan. I think it was opportunistic that Sevilla came in for him, and we thought, well, we've got Dane who's not going to get any minutes, and we've got Valise who's not going to get many minutes. Why don't we? And we couldn't loan Dane back out. So it was a little bit of like, well, he'll get more minutes this way if he goes to Sevilla, and then we can give Dane the minutes that Valise would have gotten. It works out for everyone. We probably think of them in similar regards. So
But
I don't think it was a we don't trust you. I think it was just this probably is the best solution for everyone to get a little bit of game time.
But if we really think that they're the same quality, Scarlett and Valise, then why sign Valise in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, you would hope that we're going to spend 10 to 15 million on a player in the belief that they will be of a not that they are, but at least they could be. That the fact that you spend that money on someone who might be as good as the guy you've got out on loan who's done nothing, when you know you've got Lankshear and Donnelly and other people that can score goals, it feels like it's a weird one. I did read a rumor that Spurs weren't massively happy that Ange kind of pushed it through, and that Ange had spotted him before and said, "I want to work with this kid." When we had people in the academy that could easily have done that role. But it's a weird one, like, because again, like, send him to the second division in Spain where he plays every game, okay, right? Like, we can kind of control. Like, if you said to a team in the second division, "Hey, like, we've got this kid who's we think is really good, do you want to play him for a bit?" They might be interested. But for Sevilla to do it, it just felt like that Sevilla have other players that they're gonna choose over him, and I don't think Valise did terribly for Spurs. Like, when Scarlett came back, I didn't automatically think that he was going to go ahead of Valise.
No.
Right? And so that you're right. Like, one of those two will probably go out on loan again or be sold. But logically, with the squad, it makes sense to keep Parrott. I mean, it doesn't financially, but for football reasons, it probably does.
I read today again, just a Twitter rumor that someone we've been linked with it for a while is Jimenez at Feyenoord, who's obviously I think he's the top scorer in the Eredivisie. Hasn't scored in the last five appearances though, according to Flash Score. And apparently we're dangling the Brian Hill carrot in to try and see if Feyenoord will take him, but Hill only wants a permanent move, which is why he didn't leave in January.
Yeah, I don't see Brian Hill wanting Dutch football, and that's nothing against Dutch football. I just think he either wants Spain or Italy, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So it's a shame. It would be a lovely fit, but if the Feyenoord manager isn't staying, which he might not, it's I forgot about him scoring in that game.
I was there.
Yeah,
right in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, I like, it's weird. Like now, I just, I don't know. I don't think Valise did anything wrong. You're right. I mean, maybe JP is right that it was kind of an opportunistic thing. Like, hey, like, we got all these players, we can't name them all, but we could have named them all. And like, here we are at the start of the show discussing we need a physical presence up front, and we don't really have one that we would trust.
I mean, this is a good point. When you look at Udogie and Sarr, the way they've come in, particularly Udogie, was he 22 now? I think Udogie.
He's 22 now, yeah.
Is this a valid point? Or are we just handpicking a couple of players thinking they are that much? Is this the true full European, like more foreign players than English players?
I think it's all about what we've been discussing, is that they're getting minutes.
Yeah.
Like they're coming through their academies, and there's, you could argue, an easier pathway into a first team, or there's not enough money in the other leagues in Europe, and so they have to rely on their academy players and playing them, but they're getting senior minutes younger, and so therefore they're better prepared. But also you're taking a look at sample size. Like we can cherry pick the best players from all around the world and bring them into the Premier League and say this guy was ready. And then you go, how many have we produced in the UK? But you're looking at a population size of this compared to this where we're cherry picking from. So I don't think you can be super hard, but there probably is something in the the opportunities, but also maybe the structure of academies and who was it who was never keen on paying academy players so much because they lose appetite and desire? There's probably some truth in that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
but the best English players, weirdly, did leave.
Yep.
Right. I mean, Bellingham went to Dortmund. Sancho went to
Yes.
Dortmund.
Yep.
Like Minu obviously has come through now, but like, I don't think it's a nationality thing, right? Obviously, I think England has rules about you can only have academy players from within a certain distance. So like that means it more like less likely to find someone who has left home at 16 to go and be a professional, go and live in digs like we always used to hear about when we were kids. Like that doesn't seem to happen anymore. So yeah, I don't know if it's a maturity thing or if it's just like I've done this because I am the future for my family or whatever. But yeah, it is a weird one. I would love it. I like the idea of having almost like a farm system where like the bigger clubs, because they have the finances, can control the smaller clubs and make sure that they function, right? Like it sucks if you're a fan of Torquay United, you don't want a big team to take charge of you, especially if it's a big team you don't like. But the idea of guaranteeing that kind of network, I think it would be beneficial for English football because it would give players the chance to go out and maybe do something. But again, whether you're in control of them or not, they still have to take those chances. And I think that is kind of where we fall short. That maybe those players go as I'm Billy Big Balls from an academy, and I'm going to go and play every game. And the 34-year-old experienced pro is like, you see that fence, I'm kicking you over it, and they have to get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, interesting you say about the there was a limitation on how far clubs could recruit from. Chelsea have had soccer at schools down here, and I mean, I'm guessing as the crow flies, I'm probably 50 to 60 miles from Chelsea for a long time. Even at James's school, they had a weekly soccer academy and things. So I think they do recruit from further afield now than they used to. Even though Portsmouth is 15 miles to the west of me, and Brighton's 32 to the east of me. But obviously, those two teams weren't in the Premier League for a while, so Chelsea have just spread their net wherever they can. Interesting, a friend of mine who is a Portsmouth fan, I think he lives in London now. His son has now got into the Chelsea Academy. I think he's around about 10, 11. But still goes to training with his Pompey shirt on. And Simon, the dad, his uncle is Trevor Stephen, the former England and Everton right winger. So his great nephew could well be making it in the Premier League. So that was quite an interesting one. Yeah, quite interesting one. So there you go. There we go. Both Southern Wanderers and Man City have academies in the UAE. Huh? Yeah. Cheers, Jer, for that.
I don't know all of the rules about everything, but it does. I don't know. Like you look at the better players. I mean, you look at the maturity levels, and I do see a difference really between the 18-year-old kids. But I'm always surprised when I hear a German professional or one of the German national team players, and they give interviews in English and they can do it like this, right? And they don't sound terrible, and their English is good. And obviously, it's just speaking English or learning languages is much more highly prized here, regardless of whether you're a footballer or not. Everybody kind of learns to do it to a decent level, and the English, they don't have that attitude of being a bit more. I mean, I don't want to be too stereotypical, but the idea of like it's an island. We don't have those traveling kind of genes that maybe in Austria. I'm an hour from 3 or 4 different countries. It's quite easy to see something different and to appreciate maybe what you have. And maybe, I've been out of the UK for a long time now, so I don't really know. But maybe there is a small nationality thing, but I think it is probably a minute one, and it actually just comes down to the players' desire and drive, and like the ability they want to do it.
Just the last one, just on the accounts and stuff. Obviously, Steve with Jack and Craig did a very good accounts show as part of the Nottingham Forest review on Tuesday night. So if you missed that, go and watch it because they break down a lot of the stuff and they make it a bit easier for those of us that aren't experts in the business world. Just seeing Adrian's brought up. Spurs will buy or adopt a feeder club like Jim Ratcliffe with Manchester United, Nice and France. Obviously, Spurs are looking for investment. I would suggest, without knowing for definite, that At this time, we're looking for somebody under 25% because Levy is going to continue his domination of the Tottenham area and wants to really expand. Something I'm sure that a certain gentleman in Sydney will be delighted about. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. Obviously, the PSR, FFP rules, whatever they are, will still apply. So we can't go and spend 300 million quid because investors come in and spend that money unless there's a definite turnaround. I am
The
waiting.
investment seems to be more capital investment that he's looking for.
Yeah.
It's more
That probably is the
properties and
case.
more revenue generating
I
assets.
I am waiting to see what happens. Chelsea's accounts are on Companies House, but not. So Companies House stated they've received them, they just haven't been uploaded yet. Tottenham's accounts aren't actually on Companies House yet. So I'm going to be very interested because Chelsea haven't published them as far as I know, whereas Tottenham have published them on their website. So you can read them. Be very interested to see what a mess they are in.
Yeah, and
I'm really hoping it's a massive hole.
And they clearly don't want anyone to know because that would damage their ability in the summer. I mean, that's the thing. Like they may have
It's
had
going
lower
to be
their
out there
bargaining
within the next 10
position.
days.
It should
Yeah,
take
that's the
points
thing.
off them this season, though, wouldn't it?
The Premier League already know what situation they're in because that would have. But I think it's at the end of this season, which won't be reported till this time next year, that it'll be really interesting.
Lowers their leverage, particularly with other clubs. If clubs go, well, that's how much you're in trouble. Well, what leverage
They are
do
going
they
to
have
have
in
to
the deal?
sell players before the end of June, and they're going to
That's
have
what
to
I'm
sell
saying.
players
Yeah.
that have either been there a long time, or they bought for a very small amount, or were academy.
Yeah. Every
It's
club will
obviously
be
the
looking at those accounts for
The
Chelsea.
likes of Mudryk, they paid what 88 million. They've only will have paid 8 million off on accounting terms. So if they sell him for 70 million, they're making a loss. So they're worse off. So they're better off keeping him.
Yeah,
They've got to sell the likes of Trevor Chalobah or Gallagher, or I mean, they normally sell 3 or 4 academy players that none of us have ever heard of and make 25 million.
I think the guy that is at Newcastle who might play tomorrow, Lewis Hall, I think that was a loan to permanent, right? So he won't count until whenever they do that. So I'm sure they feel like they have some mechanism, but yeah, like there's no reason for Spurs to help them to buy a player that we don't need and don't really want.
No, I agree with that absolutely. But I think teams will go sniffing and they'll think, well, a bit like we did with Maddison, because we paid less of the money before the end of June to get him in the financial year. They'll try and teams will go sniffing around some of those Chelsea players and try and get them cheaper. So that would be quite interesting. Chelsea haven't been charged yet, but mark my words, they will be hammered. Everton got an extra 2-point deduction for 16.9 overspend. Is 16.9 million a yardstick? I think the trouble is, Adrian, it's different panels on each one. So the consistency is a little bit iffy. And aren't they talking about changing the current system so it is just cash spend? I do know they're talking about this NBA situation where there's actually a cap on the wages. And if you go over it, if you go over it by 5 million, you pay like 10 million fee. But if you go over it by 30 million, you're going to pay about 100 million. It seems to be a logarithmic thing that gets bigger and bigger. Hopefully, when that becomes clearer, we'll be able to look at that for everyone. We've been going quite a long time, guys. I just want to chuck this out here. Our Patreon chat, we've got a chat group that said JP, Cameron, and myself all came through to YouTube from this. It's £3 a month. We've got loads of different chats within. There's Fantasy League, there's Prediction League with prizes that go to it. You get to chat with, all of us and Brendan and Franco and everyone from the pod. And the ticket exchange is really good. I've got a couple of tickets out of there. And Jack, being in America, has been able to get tickets for him and when his son was over here. So it's well worth the £3 a month. The address is there, patreon.com/The Cheese Room Podcast. And on that note, I'm going to say, please do like and subscribe. If you're watching this afterwards and not live, please leave us a comment. We will try and answer it if it's a question. And we'll either be back Monday or Tuesday. Keep an eye on our socials on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is, or the Harlow Globetrotters Facebook page because he hasn't got enough.
We're trying to get him to 10,000. He needs to
10,000.
hit 5 digits. Yeah,
his page. Just keep sharing it. He's going to have to write some good stuff now. Go and look.
He's a bit low on confidence. We need to get him up.
Comment. Yeah. I'm going to say thank you, JP, for joining at the early hours.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a good start to the morning. So thanks everyone in the chat as well. You've kept it fun today.
Yeah. Thanks, Cameron, from the other side of Melbourne. I don't know how far away you are.
Well, about 20-minute drive, but yeah, no, it's good. Start of a day. Daylight savings is finished, so it's an early start for us Aussies now, 6 a.m. So yeah, it'll be a good day today.
Cameron's going to
and I
come
feel
round to
I'm
my
sure
house
you-
in about an hour and help me do some gardening. True story. So
Oh, nice.
it's going to be a good
I-
start to the day. Yeah,
Can we film that for the YouTube channel? I'm
yeah,
sure we'll get loads
100%,
of likes.
100%. I'll get some stuff out. Yeah, done.
No.
Put your cheese room merch on,
Stunfest.
and we'll get in the garden.
Stunfest. It's going to be a Stunfest.
And Cameron, I feel I'm duty bound. You know, Caller's obviously not here at the moment to mention the phone, your
Oh, yes.
famous 1980s phone. There we go.
Ah, yes. The cheese room phone. Direct line
The
to
cheese room phone.
cheese room towers.
We'll get Franco to send you a sticker over to put on one of the cheese room stickers that are
I'll
currently
do
on the
that.
toilet of various Tottenham pubs. Signed. And HG, thank you for being your waffly self as ever
I
and for
know.
having such a successful Facebook page.
Separate the wheat from the chaff. That's my job.
And I'm going to say, come on, Spurs, we're going to win tomorrow at the Geordies and avenge that horrible result last season.
And we didn't talk
Come
about
on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Spurs.